Previously on Yu-Gi-Oh! History, we took a look at Clown format. This late 2015 period showed why the Performage Clown engine gave a boost to top decks and rogue decks alike. YCSs would be won by a variety of brews, new and old, such as Infernoid, Cosmo, Burning Abyss, and Necroz. It was a fun format, all things considered, even if you could faintly see the direction Yu-Gi-Oh! Was moving in. Archetypes being used as purely engines in a greater way than past examples like DDT, abundant archetypes with inherent targeting protection, decks ramping up kill potency. It was all happening before our very eyes, and that future couldn't have come any sooner. Enter November and a new list awaits. Boy, was this a clear sign from Konami what they want for 2016. Apocalypse 4 Towers, Shurit, Construct, and Exiton Knight were all banned. Wow. Konami was on a tear for limitations for a plethora of mainstay decks. The message was evident. Out with the late 2014-2015 staples, and in with the new. Except for Dante. That guy can never get hit for some reason. Hit that like button to hit Dante. Or to not hit him. I'll take either or. In regards to towers, some may be confused. Cleaforts have been around, yet never met their height in Burning Abyss format back in late 2014. The hit was mainly due to a build called Towers Turbo, which only reached 4th back at YCS Milan last December. It was quite the scary deck that aimed to summon towers, a Cleve boss monster with high levels of protection, especially against other strong decks like BA, Shadal, and the later released Necroz. The strategy started to build popularity in Europe during summer 2015. To get out a strong monster that many decks didn't have a conventional out was nothing short of fearsome. But when the November list dropped, opponents could finally breathe a sigh of relief. November would also bring Yugi's Legendary decks, a concept that featured 3 source material themed decks. The premier set contained Yugi's decks from Duelist Kingdom, Battle City, and the Ceremonial Duel. Aside from reprints galore, it included new cards like Griffor and Electromagnetic Turtle. What could possibly be more alluring were the Duelist Kingdom non-game cards, Arcana's Red Dark Magician, a first print for the TCG, and a Dark Magician of Chaos Errata. Konami was on a roll with adjusting old cards apparently. Now DMOC has a hard once per turn effect, as well as adding the targeted spell card during the end phase instead of when DMOC is summoned. It is weird for me to discuss this set, considering this was the set that fully got me back into the game. Yes, nostalgia bait worked. I couldn't resist the trifecta of decks in a more thought out way than general character decks. So as I start to cover more formats of this late 2010s decade, I feel weirdly nostalgic towards it, and it just makes me feel old. I finally reached my second era of Yu-Gi-Oh! What a journey we've been on. And if you wanted to continue, then consider joining my Patreon for as little as $2 a month. And a journey indeed, as our next stop is YCS Sao Paulo. This event is where Cosmo would dominate after the harsh list. Other decks would be represented like Magispector, Psyframe, Tiller Knight, Masked Hero, and Clown Blade, now changing the blade tech with Gem Knight support. Yet the top 11 would show Cosmo as the majority winner here, and also the YCS winner by Alejandro Reyes. This build would run plenty of non-targeting removal like Storming Mirror Force and Time Space Trap Hole. 2 traps that shuffle monsters back into the deck is certainly scary for confident duelists running decks with targeting protection, like Magispector and competing Cosmos, especially as mass summoning gets more popular. This would be a trend that continues through the following meta scene. For the last major event of the year, YCS Lille in December would be unfortunately cancelled due to attacks in Paris, causing a state of emergency. The attacks, not the YCS, just to be clear. The YCS would not get rescheduled. This is not to say the year had nothing left in the barrel, as on December 4th, we'd receive the Master of Pendulum structured deck. Pendulum players rejoiced as the general strategy gained powerful new tools such as Perform a Pal Skullcrapat Joker, which is a Pal, Magician, and Odd Eye Searcher. Pendulum Call, a spell that lets you set up a pendulum board easily and gives them some protection. And new extra deck Odd Eyes monsters for some needed firepower, ending 2015 in a pendulum-directed future. What a future it would be, as 2016 kicked off with a bang. January 16th would be the debut of the year's first core set, Breakers of Shadow. It should have been called Breakers of the Meta, given all the phenomenal new cards. Twin Twisters is an upgraded MSC that could snipe both Pendulum Scales and set up the Grave. Solemn Strike can negate monster effects as well as special summons. Cyber Dragon Infinity is a rank 6 that has a plethora of strong effects, like attaching an opposing face-up monster and effect negation. It could be easily summoned in rank 4 decks thanks to Teller Knight Ptolemaeus. There are a ton of other single-use cards that duelists would seek after. Neptibus the Atlantean Prince, Traptrix Rafflesia, Fiendish Rhino Warrior, Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, and Magispectre Todogama, just to name a few. I can't help but wonder if Enlightenment Paladin was supposed to be a new form of Demok given its spell recursion effect, and hence Demok's errata to further emphasize this new synchro, but I digress. Yet the main draw was in the top archetypal support. Firstly, there's new Cosmo tech, primarily in Cosmo Tin Can, which is a great starter to summon a pilot from the hand and to search for a Cosmo. Even though its search effect has a random element, it wasn't tough to get something useful and to set up for follow-up plays. There was also Cosmojo, which is great removal since it banishes a card from your opponent's field or in their grave, making it versatile. Yeah, Cosmo has mojo, baby. But really, the highlight in Bosch was all the pendulum tools. Performapal Monk Keyboard can add another Performapal from your deck, making it a 1-card full scale. Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer could pop up to 2 cards to search up to 2 Performapals, though its original translation had an error where it could only search per monsters destroyed instead of its intended use, which was for cards destroyed in general. Still, it was a great additional searcher to get your combos going. Lastly to discuss is Draco Face-Off, which gave pens a great way to access a scale and put a pen into the extra deck. This made Draco Slayers an instant addition to the Pendulum deck, such as the new Master Pendulum the Draco Slayer and the Fusion Dynaster Power, the mighty Draco Slayer. Breakers of Shadow was an insane set, even in the face of great Arc V core sets. Cosmo gained strength as well as Pendulum, Mermail, and plenty of other strategies. In theory, this should create an inviting meta. It certainly is what the set was leaning towards for Draco, Traptrix, Buster Blader, etc. That said, what will the following YCS the next day look like? Bosch was legal there quickly enough, as YCS Sydney would show something rather surprising. Remember the clowns from before? With all the new Pendulum support as of late, the Performage Performapal archetype gained considerable power. This new build that combined and solidified the 2 Performers archetypes would be known as PePe, Performapal Performage, whichever order you want it, and it made an immediate mark on the dueling landscape. This deck had multiple starters that could set up multiple disruptions and OTK scenarios. It had the speed to counter any contending deck thanks to its toolbox such as Infinity, Abyss Dweller, and Rafflesia. The latter can access whole cards from the deck, not to mention the deck's possible follow-up plays. And the frightening part was that it was consistent, incredibly consistent. Like, we're talking tier 0 levels of consistency. Despite a few decks pushing through top cuts such as BA, Cosmo, and Mermail, most duelists understood the potential of PePe. The 3rd place Artifact Cosmo by Adam Morris made sure to run Artifact Scythe, a way to lock special summoning for a turn. Even in the PePe mirror match, it was a duel between who could use Wavering Eyes at the most opportune time. Regardless of the hot new core set becoming a factor now, YCS Sydney was an ice-cold shower to everyone involved. For those who absolutely loathe the Pendulum deck, the end of January would bring duelists a new structure deck in Emperor of Darkness. This was Konami's first go at an idea to revamp previous structure decks, starter decks excluded. This was a considerable upgrade to 2008's The Dark Emperor. The names are a bit of an anagram, huh? That one introduced the powerful Caius, the Shadow Monarch. This new 2016 deck, on the other hand, how does reprints, standout boss monsters, search spells, and advantageous cards sound? I won't spend too much time on this considering we'll be back at the deck in a later video, so subscribe to stay tuned. Just know that it was a much needed revitalization and summit of the building Monarch archetype. Monarchs would arise at the following YCS Atlanta on February 6th. But that's like saying so did Cosmo and Dark Pendulum, a PePe deck playing more dark attributes. Reason being is that the PePe problem infested more tables this time around. It was the highest representation in a top cut ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! 29 of the top 32, and that's just top cut. This was a clear issue as the scales of variety were heavily imbalanced. Cosmos needed to be anti-meta rather than before this format, where it was a general top deck. This is where you could see the heavy use of cards like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, Maxi, Solemn Strike, and Anti-Spell Fragrance. If you weren't competing at PePe's level in the most thoughtful capacity, then you might as well as leave. Clearly, this was not a sentiment Konami shared, as 3 days prior to Atlanta, the company would announce an upcoming emergency ban list, effective on February 8th. This was big, since Konami scarcely does this. They did technically call this an adjusted list, yet we all know the meaning behind it. PePe's Rise to Power was nothing short of a cheat code, completely breaking the game. Both YCSs of this post-Bosch season showed the problem at hand. So what exactly got hit? Newly Forbidden, Plush Fire, Damage Juggler, and Ptolemaeus. Limited, Skullcrabat Joker, Monkey Board, and Luster Pendulum. Pendulum Sorcerer would also receive its proper effect errata, which does help the deck, though the build would need more help after all these hits. The Clown Engine was essentially dead. The Ptolemaeus into Infinity combo was also gone, and the deck's two main searchers lost consistency. The response to the sudden burst of power creep was effective, as it turned the Tier 0 deck into a strategy people could actually defeat with their own skill set. There's something to say about full power PePe. The deck was slowly building pieces throughout the era, which, when combined with inherent pendulum drawbacks, kept the strategy at bay. People could see its strengths beforehand, as seen with the Clown Engine and Clown Blade deck. Then the influx of two sets multiplied PePe's searching capabilities. That multiplication of power was unseen up to that point in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. And I know, as I've covered it all up to here. Seeing into the future, one can't help but view this as Konami playing a sort of devil's advocate. Did they intend for this to be such an issue? I don't think so. More so, they saw the separate pendulum strategies as a concept that could be interchangeable with each other. But that generalism was the overlying problem. That's because performers needed to not be locked within their own biomes, since otherwise they'd be too specific and thus unplayable. It wasn't a fully realized concept like Cosmo or Magispector was, or even Dino Mist from Bosch. The nearly max adoption rate of PePe was unintended. That said, I don't think Konami fully hated it. The execution of carbon copy decks, sure. However, as history has shown us, big top decks equals big bucks. Teledad, Necros, Dino Rabbits, they're all in similar function to PePe. Had certain key cards been spread out more, I'm unsure if Konami would have made this emergency adjustment when the deck reached its climax. Indeed, the specific occasion was a tipping point, even for Konami. But it would be tough to say it wasn't an occasional issue that will happen again, or that the concept of deck construction wasn't permanently changed after this format. Speed, power, consistency, more, now, top meta and anti-meta, play to out, no in between. It's a shivering thought to be had. If we're not looking at PePe, there were plenty of Tier 2 decks Duelists did try out. Dark Pendulum is an asterisk, Cosmo variants, Pure Artifact, Anti-Meta, Burning Abyss, Mermail, and the new Domain Monarch. Given how the format played out, there wasn't a big reason for me to talk about these other strategies because they simply did not matter in early 2016, as tough as that is to say. Although, now with the top deck gutted, will the environment heal, and what will become of it? I guess we'll have to find out next episode.